Hello, everyone, and welcome back to OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. My name is Sierra Dawn, one of your hosts, joined here today by, of course, my lovely co-host, Go Brown. I'm excited to talk about things in today's episode because there's definitely a couple things looking ahead at our regional season we really need to dive into. And of course, we're having Pittsburgh around the corner, so exciting stuff. Our season's so close to being here.
Yeah, I'm really excited because we're about to get into the meat of the season and really get this podcast rolling, right? Every week we're going to have tournaments either in North America or Europe or other regions that we can recap and really talk about VGC. Of course, I'm sure at some point Regulation E is going to be announced. Maybe even the day we upload it could be announced, so we don't know what that format is, or once the DLC comes out. We'll know.
It's going to be tomorrow. As soon as this episode goes live, they will announce Regulation E, I promise you.
Whatever, I get to something to talk about the next week, right? Pittsburgh preview and Regulation E is that conversation, but yeah, I think this is going to be the exciting part for anyone who listened to our first two episodes, in anticipation for us to get the ball rolling. Like this is our moment. We can finally get a little bit of momentum, Sierra.
Yeah, and this is also the moment. I think you pulled up a stat that normally after 2 episodes, people quit their podcast. This being episode number 3.
Yeah, most podcasts don't make it past the 3rd episode. So if you have got in there and you continue to move on to 4, 5, 6, 7, you are more successful than like 80% of podcasts. Like they say, like on Twitch, if you're averaging 20 viewers, you're in like the top 5% of streamers on Twitch or whatever, and you think 20 is not that high. It just goes to show that how many people try to start something and don't follow through. And Sierra, we fully intend to follow through on this.
Doing the thing. Also, I'm proud of us too. So of course, this will come out at our regular time. We're actually recording this at midnight because despite the fact we're VGC casters, both of us were actually busy earlier on in the day with League of Legends broadcasts. So I'm curious how many people out there actually know that we work on League of Legends as well as Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm sure if they follow us, they know, what's going on. Obviously you got your weekly thing. I'm trying to break into the League scene and get more League of Legends experience. It's such a different world, Sierra. Like the commentary from Pokemon versus commentary for League is just like so night and day that it's been very interesting trying to develop that habit, because I spent 8 years working on my VGC commentary skills, right? And I'm essentially starting from scratch on how to commentate League. So it's been really interesting.
It's a totally different beast, honestly, as well. Like the different news I'm sure anyone who's tuned into different broadcasts knows that there's very different vibes. And the League stuff that I work on, the vibe for today's broadcast is both of the casters kept barking during one of the matches.
Okay.
We also had a segment that was literally one of the casters eating their Subway sandwich into their... I don't would never.
Wow, that's
this is where you're inspired. This is what we're do.
Yeah, I don't think we could. I don't think we could bark because there's too many furries that like Pokemon. So I don't know if we could really. Barking is up in our avenue here.
Every time an Incineroar hits the field, all the casters just start meowing.
Oh my! No, absolutely not. You chose the worst example. You might as well said Lycanroc or Delphox coming onto the field, just getting them all riled up.
I know one person that plays Lycanroc. I don't know anyone who plays Delphox, but Incineroar is about to be everywhere in a little bit. But that would be the one that everyone would have to meow. But yeah, I don't think maybe not. If I ever see somebody meow in the Twitch chat though, when an Incineroar comes out on the field, I know that you've listened to this.
That was us.
I'll know.
That was us. Yeah,
for sure. I promise this is a VGC broadcast though. And a couple of things we wanted to talk about today, of course, was this is our little schedule. This is a little itinerary. We got the regionals because regional registrations are going up and they are selling out fast. As well, talking about all the issues about the regionals that we already have so far, even though we haven't got to any. As well, people who are not playing in the regionals but still involved in the VGC scene. There's other things going on. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about the Victory Road World Cup that's happening, because that is actually something that there is a lot to, and there's a lot of people that play for their country's glory there. As well, there's a couple of events in the game. And we could also speculate a little bit about our Regulation E, you know, the one that they're literally going to drop the second this podcast goes live.
Yeah, it really is our luck. Just as like, I know it's gonna happen, but it is what it is. It's fine. Obviously, we have all the time in the world because we still have a month of Regulation D, which I think is a pretty fun format and is, even though we had worlds already, I think is still kind of underexplored since so many people were just running like Urshifu and them boys on their teams at worlds. Like
Shifu and friends.
Yeah, I'm waiting for someone else to try to figure out some of the other like really strong stuff. Like maybe even if they're like conventional Pokemon, right? Like maybe it's close combat instead of Drain Punch and Iron Hands, or like different types of techs like that. I think there is definitely a chance to explore Regulation D a little bit more.
I'm finally starting to get into Regulation D. So since I wasn't casting Worlds and I was busy with other broadcasts, I was like, why am I going to learn Regulation D? Surely it's going to be over by the time the regional season starts. I was wrong. But so I never really actually learned it. I'm starting to get involved in it now. I keep hearing, I would love to know your thoughts on it. I keep hearing conflicting opinions about Regulation D. I feel like there is like a group of players that is like, this format actually rocks. They love the Urshifu and friends. And then other people that are like, I actually cannot wait for this dog format to be over. I want Regulation. They don't even know what Regulation E is. It could even be worse, but they're like, I just want this to be done with.
I think that's why I can like a confusing point on those people's takes, because like, do we necessarily know the grass is greener in Regulation E?
But the grass is so bad here that they're apparently like, it must be.
That's like so confusing to me that they would say that, because obviously the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, and there could be a Pokemon in Regulation E that we're not prepared for that completely dominates the meta the way I meant to say Urshifu and Fluttermane have in Regulation D, right? So I personally am a fan of the format. I think there are a couple of Pokemon, it seems weird why certain legendaries are legal and others aren't, and I know it's because they were in Legends Arceus. I fully understand the reasoning, but this doesn't make me feel any better.
It's like it's not a good enough of a reason for you.
Yeah, like if you can give me Landorus, let me get Terrakion or whatever. Like, I understand the Terrakion's not in Legends Arceus, fine, but so there were some like Pokedex entry decisions on Pokemon Home, and we had this issue in Sword and Shield too with, I want to say it was whatever because I think they were series at that point. Series 3, I think, was when the DLC came in with the Gmax.
I didn't even play at that point.
We had like Venusaur and Incineroar and like all these things that weren't in the Sword and Shield base Pokedex came in, and it was like really like I said, really odd selections of these Pokemon are Pokemon Home accessible. So like Terrakion, again, just my boy wants saying like he's legal, but then Landorus wasn't legal in Series 3. You know what I mean? Like the way that they choose, and that was different because that was the first time we were having 3D models with Sword and Shield. So they were literally from the ground up bringing them over from when I say 3D, I mean like console 3D, to explain it to everyone before everyone cries. Like, no, I know X and Y and Sun and Moon are 3DS, I understand.
Like different 3D.
Yes, they had to pretty much redo it, the whole pixels and everything. So that one made sense. So the fact that we have all the pixels in Scarlet and Violet, but then we only choose a couple legendaries and a couple other Pokemon in 10 Hisuian forms or whatever, compared to, why couldn't we get a Alolan Ninetales when Hisuian, Samurott came out at the same time? Like, that's my issue, is the Pokedex selection, but the gameplay of Regulation D Sierra, I am a massive fan of. Like, the Urshifu stuff is kind of annoying, I understand, but besides that, all of the other Pokemon, and like the fact that Landers can be used in multiple different ways, and Heatran is really good, and there are slow teams like Cresselia and Ursaluna out there. Like, I am a massive fan of the format.
See, my curiosity with Regulation D was, of course, we allowed the Legends Arceus Pokemon to be in, but then Walking Wake and Iron Leaves weren't allowed into Regulation D, and I get the whole, Legends Arceus Pokemon, but these two Pokemon have actually been in the game for a while. Yeah. Like, they had, like, why couldn't we have those two? Because the raids happened It feels like ages ago. I genuinely can't
Well,
remember.
so that's the funny thing, is that the argument is accessibility, because one, they're DLC-ish Pokemon, whatever, because they're going to be in the new story, right? We know there's going to be the trios or whatever. So they're not fully in the game because it was a one-time, one-weekend raid or whatever to get it. You could argue Walking Wake is more accessible than Enamorous Therian is.
Yeah, to get Enamorous, I have to beat Legends Arceus, and I hate Legends Arceus.
And the stats roll on your player file. So it's not, so with, I don't know why they changed that. You know, people used to soft reset on Pokemon all the time.
In front of it?
Correct. You have to replay through Legends Arceus if you want that 0-speed Enamorous. So the idea that, oh, well, I missed out on Walking Wake in that weekend and that's not accessible and that's not fair. I'm like, brother, there are so many other Pokemon that are not accessible that we've seen at Worlds the issue that there are Pokemon that are not accessible, what that lack of accessibility causes. So I'm right there with you on Walking Wake and Iron Leaves.
I'm just glad that I never planned to put Enamorous on a competitive team, even if it's good, because I genuinely despise that Pokemon. I think it's so ugly. I don't think it needed to. No, I do not think it needed to exist. I don't love Enamorous. I love Landori Enamorous. My combination from the of combining Landorus and Enamorous. That's my true love. Throwback to whatever broadcast it was where Rose tried to put the Enamorous plush in the lounge where we were live, and I threw it back at her. I'm like, wait a second.
What was that? Was that Vancouver or something? I think. I want to say.
I don't think it was Vancouver. I don't think it was right before that. I would probably
Knoxville.
I would guess Knoxville or Orlando. I think it was Knoxville or Orlando. Knoxville is kind of the one that's little light bulbing in my head, but yeah, she found this plush. I do not like Enamorous. I do not like it whatsoever. Production's even got I think they had a wire. They were pulling the Enamorous up in the background while we were in the lounge.
It's beautiful. Are you not enamored by its beauty?
Absolutely no. But going back to the accessibility, that's a really big point. It's something that we obviously got to see Worlds a lot this year, because there's been a lot of discussion, of course, about the fact that with these Pokemon coming back from Legends Arceus, things like the Urshifu and stuff from Pokemon Sword and Shield. I mean, the amount of people that asked for me to lend them a water Urshifu, the Urshifu Rapid Strike at Worlds, was crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't have one because you got one Kubfu in the game and I made it the single strike.
Same. The single strike was so much better in Sword and Shield.
Yeah, so unless I go and make a new file on my Switch to then just go to the Isle of Armor and do that, whatever that quest is, I cannot get a water Urshifu. I cannot get it on my main save file. So that was definitely oof. And even people that caught their Treasures of Treasures of Ruin Pokemon. If you didn't all of a sudden get the right stat because you weren't thinking about it, you were just trying to complete your Pokedex, well, you are donezo. That is what you have. Thankfully, I only caught the Chien-Pao, and the Chien-Pao doesn't really matter because, I just want to hyper channel.
That's actually the only one I caught, too.
It's the only one worth catching, let's be real. So I could actually go for the other ones and, reset. But it was just, really? That's why Walking Wake and Iron Leaves is allowed?
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder what their effect would be on the meta. I'm sure we're going to know it more once we figure out what the Entei and Terrakion forms are, right? When we have the full access to both future and past Paradox legendary trios. Maybe that's why, for marketing purposes, it's easier for them to market, look at new Suicune, new Entei, new Raikou together, instead of just look at new Suicune, with Walking Wake.
Then why, it then just goes to why'd they just bring out the Walking Wake and the Iron Leaves in Raid? Why didn't they do the Walking Wake and the Iron Leaves, and then 2 months later, oh, look at this Raging Bolt and whatever the heck the other one is called? I really just genuinely don't.
Iron Crown. Even
the
though
Violet Paradox Pokemon don't matter. They're mostly all ugly. But
now Terrakion's gonna look sick. I will bet money Terrakion's gonna look so sick.
I feel like it's probably one of the ones they could do a better design on, considering the violet theme of the paradoxes. I feel like it could have a cool
a futuristic rock psychic guy. He's gonna look so cool.
But I think the paradox of the legendary beast just like go hard. Like,
Oh yeah, for
Raging
sure.
Bolt, like people were kind of clowning. No, that Pokemon looks cool. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
he looks cool. I think he's a little cold. He's got a scarf. You know, it's a little cold, the weather up there with the long neck. But
I just the theories on the Entei. That's the one. I think it's going to be like a Stegosaurus, but it has like the scales are little flames. Wouldn't that would look kind of good.
that would be kind of good. I haven't even thought about it. I was wondering, like, what is Walking Wake like a Velociraptor or something? Like, what type of dinosaur is it? I don't know. It's got the little hands, right?
It's got the. That's kind of what I think. That looks like it would be in Jurassic Park. It's kind of.
Because I was wondering, like, could Entei be a T-Rex? Because he's like, you know, he's the big one. He had the movie, you know, he had Pokemon the third movie, and he's got the big volcano, and it's like kind of the important one
But
of
you
the
say
three.
that, but Pokemon literally made Pokemon Crystal that was only about Suicune, because Suicune was
True.
the cool, important one.
So I don't know. Could he? I'm trying to think of my like dinosaur. I want to say dinosaur typings, like their Pokemon. Like a Stegosaurus, or is that the one that's like not actually real? Didn't they say that? They said Stegosaurus never existed.
What?
I've heard. Yeah, Google this.
No. I'm googling this right now.
Because there's like a theory out there that that Stegosaurus dinosaurs didn't exist or something. Which is very heartbreaking because that's like the coolest looking dinosaur out there with like this, you know.
No, it existed. It just apparently didn't exist at the same time as like the Tyrannosaurus. So it's like there's different eras of dinosaurs. So they didn't, despite the fact that like everyone, whatever part of media puts all the dinosaurs together, they didn't actually all live at the same time. Yeah. But the Stegosaurus is real. And as soon as I was trying to be like, do they exist? Everything was coming up like, do they eat meat? Do they eat plants? Like nothing came up about existing. So there's something else that you're thinking of. Chat will have to.
I'm sure there's a lot of dinosaurs. I just remember there was a tweet. I think it was a comedian or something, or it was a famous person that made a tweet that was like, a part of growing up is realizing nobody ever asked you what your favorite dinosaur is anymore. And like as a kid, you had to be on the ready. You know what I mean? Your whole life as a kid, you had to, what's your favorite dinosaur? And you go, bam, Triceratops. Like you had to be on point.
That could be one for Entei.
Maybe.
They could have the fire mane and then the horn.
I don't know. We gotta ask. We can ask my friend Tsunekazu Ichihara, which I am legally allowed. I didn't even tell you this at Worlds. I'm legally allowed to refer to him as my friend. Because he was on the stage, right, doing the opening with Anna, and Katie, our producer, is obviously going through a million things at once backstage. So she was right next to me and asked her, and I said, "Hey, can I call Ishihara my friend?" And she was like, in a tweet, and I was like, "Yeah," and she was like, "Sure," and she just like walked away. She was like,
"I don't know if that's legally binding."
And so I got permission from our producer to call Ishihara my friend. So I'm saying we can ask my friend to give us the Entei information early.
I might have some bad news for you, bud.
I think we're legally binding. We're friends, me and him. My friend did such a great job with the opening ceremony and everything, you know?
Oh my goodness. You know what would be cool? Keep it up. You know what would be cool for Entei though? I'm looking up dinosaurs right now. I don't know really how to say this, so I am going to butcher it, and I am already so embarrassed for it. First off, an Ankylosaurus, I think would be cool. That's the one that has like the armor on its back, and like the spiky ball tail.
If he's dragon fire, and he probably still has the volcano thematic to it, that could make sense.
It would make a lot of sense. What I want personally, which makes no sense, would be, and I'm going to butcher this, the pterodon. It's the one with the beak and the wings. It does not make sense, but it would be cool. It would just look like past Moltres.
You throw dinosaur wings at me, I'm thinking pterodactyl. You know what I mean? Like that's all I can.
It's just like different pterodactyl, I think. I don't know.
Well, then that should be like Paldean Aerodactyl. Then you know what I'm saying?
It could be. This is all of a sudden turned into a dinosaur podcast. I will say my two obsessions when I was a kid was Pokemon and dinosaurs. I either had a dinosaur book or I had like the Pokédex book, and I would make my parents read that to me at night. It was one of the two. So this
I
is
like
just
that.
the merging of the worlds right now, you know?
That's pretty cool, yeah. The only dinosaurs I have is like a little tube, and I'm sure other kids relate to it. You pick it up at like a zoo or something, and it's just like a straight up tube of like 15 different dinosaur little like creatures that you can play with and stuff. That was the only dinosaur related thing I had as a kid.
I also have one of those that was like frogs and like lizards and out of different frogs. It was dope. It was awesome. So I like how this has just been like we're going to talk about regionals. We're going to talk about all this important stuff, and we've just been theorizing.
We are talking about important stuff.
Our
favorite dinosaurs.
Our favorite dinosaurs. So that's good. But yeah, where this all came from. Walking Wake and Iron Leaf should have been included in Regulation D, and I frankly am upset that they weren't. That would have saved the metagame, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Obviously, Walking Wake quad resisting surging strikes might have been nice, but then you're also weak to Fluttermane, so does it just make Fluttermane even stronger?
Fluttermane's going to be at 90% usage by the time Pittsburgh rolls around.
Yeah, basically. I think you honestly have to justify why you don't have Fluttermane on your team more than like why you are putting it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't disagree, but getting on to actually talking about the regionals, because we actually do have Pittsburgh coming up real soon. That is not this upcoming weekend, but the one after, like September 7th-ish, I think is the date. But we actually got not only the registration for Pittsburgh, but the two events happening in October, Peoria and Sacramento. We just had registration for that. For Sacramento, it actually just went up a couple hours ago. And there's actually a really unfortunate trend that is happening with our early season regionals for VGC, and that is incredibly low player caps, like laughably low. So for the last couple of events, it's been, I think for Pittsburgh, they opened it up so we have 332 master slots. Peoria's set it, I think, 400. Sacramento just opened up and it's 300 between all three divisions, apparently. Like, this is... Oh my god.
I like that. We're like, oh, it's like 340. Like, yeah, they found extra slots for us. And it was just like hardly any more in Pittsburgh. And it's just like, I get like, again, so much of life is gray, right? Things are not black and white. They're not like good and bad, whatever. It is a supply chain issue. They've been like Overload has been very public about that issue that they sent them off to Japan, right? And they haven't been able to get them back.
We'll do the exact phrasing because they didn't say Japan. It's very obvious. It is very obvious. But to read the exact tweet, because obviously there's been a lot of discourse, like because they tweeted out like, yeah, we understand that people are disappointed in the low cap. Like, we'd love to host more people than possible. And someone asked like as to why, like, where's the collection of docs last year? This wasn't an issue last year. And Overload tweeted out, I can kind of answer this. First, there is a collection of docs. They didn't say that, but that's what they're referring to. Second, they were sent to a large tournament earlier this month. Guess what large tournament happened earlier this month? It was Worlds. Third, they sadly didn't make it back in time. So this is not only affecting Pittsburgh, but we're actually looking at the place now where, looking way out, it's way down the line. We're looking at October, and they're still don't forecast these docs being back.
That's why I don't understand, like, how long can it possibly get stuck in customs or whatever? And I think, like, the other question that, obviously none of us have this information, right? But they're like, how much of your supply did you send to the large event that happened earlier this month? Like, you knew it's a finite amount, right? You're not going to have more than 300 players at once because you have the day one field and then most of them get knocked out and then there's less day two people. So, you know, at least in the Masters division, you're not going to need more than roughly 300, maybe 350 docs or something like that. And then seniors and juniors, whatever that number is. But like, did Overload send 500 and then day two events send 500 and then Team Northwest also send 500 Hori pads? Like, I'm just trying to figure out do we have 1,500 Hori pads stuck in customs right now for a 300 person event? Like, that's where a lot of people's confusion is running right now.
Well, I think too, because you're talking about that we knew how many people were for day 1 and day 2. I'm kind of curious, and I haven't seen anything to back this, but obviously there was a point in time, it was tweeted out that the Yokohama Open was canceled. I don't like, I'm just saying, if all of a sudden we're having all of these issues getting our docs back from Japan, an event that we sent all of our docs to, knowing that day 1 and day 2 of VGC play is actually, I think, like what, max like 280 people was like the max. Like there wasn't this many docs worth of people that we sent off. But if we sent them for side events and we sent them for the open and we
That's a
all of a
great
sudden
point.
had issues, that could then be explanation. Like I said, there is no backing to that. That is just like
Because
getting
we
into
would
Pokemon
easily
VGC
easily would have
conspiracies
had
here.
1,000 people playing in the open.
Yeah.
Easily. So that's
And
actually, I
then,
didn't even think of that. That's a good point.
yeah, like I'm curious about the world because like I would have thought, given the situation, they just would have canceled the open for VGC if that was the case. I would have thought that TCG would be open, which makes me think that maybe it's not true. But thinking about kind of how little docs they actually needed in Japan in comparison to how much theoretically were sent, because we had regionals last year at almost 800 people for masters. That's not including seniors, that's not including juniors, that's not including anyone else. So we've lost a lot of these stands in a very short amount of time. So that's the only thing that really makes sense to me as to why so many went out of circulation so fast.
I did see, like, there was a tweet that I know obviously that social media person's having a rough day and they're doing their best job, but like somebody replied with the photo of like their own Hori pet, like, you know, doc at home or whatever, and they're like, can I just bring my own and register, please? Like, because that would be a part of the solution, right? If the issue is we don't have enough docs available, if people BYOD to Pittsburgh, that can help alleviate the issue. Let's pump up those registration numbers.
That would be kind of funny. But a thing I see as well is like, why don't we get more? But apparently they're all out of stock at the moment.
Yeah.
I've also seen theories because like they're getting ready for a new Switch, so that these would maybe be obsolete. Or they're just out. Like, there pretty clearly just be a world where they're all out. It happens. But, yeah, so all of a sudden, all of the Hori pads are gone. All the Hori docs are gone. They're all sold out, so we can't get any more. And our registration is at, like, an all-time low. Like,
Yeah.
it's actually, it's so
it's heartbreaking
frustrating.
considering we were crushing numbers every single event. We were killing it, like having 800 people at Orlando, like near 800 in Masters. Like these are numbers that in excuse me, in the current quote unquote modern era of VGC with, you know, best of 3 for Swiss rounds or whatever, like these are numbers that we have not really seen consistently, and we were getting to that spot. Now we can go back to the olden days and people were standing, we had 1,300 people standing in line at a mall, and you played against the person that was right next to you, and it was best of 1 with no team preview. Like that's a whole different world. That's the dark ages. That's like not even comparable to what we're dealing with today. So like, so Scarlet and Violet was putting us on track to have consistently the most attendance at regionals ever. Like Cedric made a tweet that was like with inflation, a 400 player regional is just a 2015 Liberty Garden MSS. Like, and it really is. Like getting 70 people in the 3DS is essentially getting 400 people in Scarlet and Violet. Like I think that tweet is perfectly, you know, it perfectly encapsulates like how much of a boom we've had. That 400 we used to kill for. Like imagine if we got 400. Like we had a regional in Daytona with 38 players once. It was like Thanksgiving weekend or something. We had 38 players, and if you told those Daytona people that we'd have 400, we'd be awesome. And now we're disappointed with 400.
Yeah, see, I was playing the TCG first, and I was traveling to regionals for the TCG first, and I never really paid attention to VGC at that point. I just knew that the tournaments were laughably small, and that was basically it. And not because there was caps or anything else, it was just nobody showed up. So that was like my first impression of VGC once I started actually going to tournament, was like, wow, nobody wants to play this. Like nobody's showing up. So then after COVID, and then once we hit Sword and Shields and then now into Scarlet and Violet, like the registration numbers for the 2023 season actually go nuts, all things considered. So I went back and pulled them. There was 3 regionals. We had over 700 this is all only masters numbers. I didn't compile anything for seniors and juniors, but 3 regionals at over 700. And when I say over 700, like 2 of them are actually closer to 800 than 700. That was Orlando, it was Charlotte, and it was UIC. So 2 regionals at the over 700. UIC and AIC both over 700, actually almost to 800. 3 regionals between this 500 to 700 mark, and the lowest one was 285 people going to Fresno, which was announced late, last one of the season, and it's Fresno.
So it was announced late. It was tough to fly into, and it was right after Milwaukee, and it was right before NAIC. So there were like so many factors as to why that was 285. Like, but you know, if Fresno was a more popular California city that's easier to fly into and earlier in the year, easily 500 people were going to that event.
Yeah, and like, because Fresno was not a fun place to be going to. So glad we're not going back this year.
We had a great time. We had a great time.
It was one of those places that going beyond the hotel was just not a great time. But the hotel was cool. It was a nice hotel that we all got to stay at for casters. But yeah, seeing that like the registration numbers, how high they were last year, and that it was events like Fresno, Vancouver was also one of the low events at 309, and it's West Coast, hard to get through. Vancouver's expensive to fly into, and people without passports or don't want to internationally travel, considering a lot of the competition from the States, it makes sense. So, like, those were our 2 lowest. Everything else, like, the numbers were actually insane.
And so now we're begging for things to be as big as Vancouver because of the...
Yeah.
Like, how late does it go? Does this affect LAIC? Does this affect... What's San Antonio's in December or something like that, right? Like, how late does this issue go? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, too, because once we saw that for Pittsburgh, that this was going to be an issue, it's, you know... Yes, that is disappointing, but it's understandable. I appreciate the transparencies from the TOs, because if things are stuck in customs, it is genuinely not their fault. If they can't buy more stands because they're all sold out, which I've gotten word that they are, it is not their fault. So I can only imagine it's as frustrating as it is for them. So I'm not putting any blame on them. Just as a player and someone as part of the community, like, I feel like it's actually actively killing our game, because we're coming off of the hype from Worlds, trying to get new people into the game, and people aren't getting into registrations. People can't go to their local events. New people can't get into it. Even our experienced players and our top players can't get in. Justin Tang missed the first wave of Pittsburgh registration. They opened 30 slots, and he managed to get in one of those 30 slots. For Sacramento today, Aaron Zhang was just tweeting out that he didn't get into that. Like, it's actually hindering the growth and also just returning players when we need more championship points for invites and all of this. We're not even hitting the kickers that we now get for our extended championship points. We can't even hit those.
Yeah, and I think a part of the championship point increase was the fact of how strong our player base has become and our consistent, attendance to be able to hit those kickers. And if we put these kickers in place to, increase the CP prizing and whatnot, and we can't even reach those, not due to lack of interest, right? Because we have, like, there's, like, double whammies of, like, not only is it hard for you to get the available legendary Pokemon to play in the tournament, but it's also hard to even just register for the tournament, and these are things that are out of your control. Like, it's very difficult to, like, have what if there's a kid, what if, Scott's little Timmy friend, his analogy that he used at Worlds, what if little Timmy lives in Pittsburgh, and he can't even register through no fault of his own?
Cooked. He's
just gonna have to keep eating glue. He can't go to the event,
Goodness,
dude, that bit is actually legendary. When I saw someone post that online, just the full 50 seconds of him trying not to giggle after he says, "My favorite Pokemon's Charizard. My favorite food is glue," and then Daz just tries to bring it back to a normal conversation. It's got every time. It's so good.
Scott's too funny. Scott's too funny. You also know when Dawes is the one trying to bring something back to a normal conversation that things have gone downhill. Like, oh goodness, I'm stop. But yeah, no, for new players that are wanting to go to their local event and anything, like they're cooked, like gone to the point. I think it was like sold out in 3 minutes for Sacramento with the 300 slots. Players are calling it like, or I've seen people tweet about like, I made it past day 0. They've made it into the registration of the event. Like,
I should get 5 CP just because I was able to register. You know,
just because you're able to get your registration details in on time. Yeah, no, it's actually, I feel so bad for people trying to compete. I managed to, no leaks on which, but I managed to get into the tournaments that I was trying to get into, which is nice. But I also know that if I don't sign in on like the first frame, like frame 0 here, that I'm not going to get into the event. So I was there and I was waiting. But to see the amount of people that were like, I didn't get in or stuff, and all of a sudden they have travel plans that they have to cancel is, I don't know. That sucks. And to see that it's already like our 3rd regional and we're having a 300 person cap. By the way, do you know what the caps are, or like what TCG is at?
They're at like
for numbers right now?
1,800 or something. It's like crazy.
1,800. So I don't have the exact numbers because you can't see the registration numbers unless you are registered for the event. But rough numbers: 1,800 for Pittsburgh, 1,200 for Sacramento. This was posted an hour after registration was live. They were at 1,200 Masters, and I believe Peoria was at about 1,500. I can't remember, and I didn't find it in time for the podcast, but like they don't have to worry about Hori Docs, so like they can have as many people as the venue fits. But it's just like, that is literally the moment of like sitting at the fence and being like, but the grass is greener on the other side, because they actually are getting all these kickers, are getting all these people competing, and we're just like, can we please have 30 more slots for our regional, sir? Just 30 more slots?
Please, I want 30 more slots.
just a crumb of Hori Docs, please.
Oh my god. And it's another frustrating thing, right? Because we went through the COVID era of organizers trying to have more TCG slots than VGC so that they could get more out of it because TCG players buy more things or whatever, like we did with New Jersey, right? Like, we've been through that era. This is not the issue. This is not organizers trying to make an extra couple bucks. Like, this is an unfortunate transportation issue that's affecting so many things. So like, it's almost like you just yell at the clouds. Like, there's nothing, like there's no person that you can be like, darn, this person like dropped the ball. Like, it's just life, and we have to accept that VGC takes a hit because life happened.
Yeah, which is, it's even more frustrating that you can't be frustrated with anyone, because then you're sitting here and you're like, we only have 300 slots, but it's not the organizer's fault, and who can you blame? Like, the customs officers that are holding the docks are also probably doing their job, you know? Yeah. Like, it's just
that's
I don't
why
know,
I'm
shake
yelling
my
at the
fist at the clouds. Yep, yeah. Literally. But I promise, if anyone's able to get a slot into a regional, they are good times. Hopefully that is something that we can actually get later on in the season too, because I don't know, it's nice being able to see people go to their first events. Like, I remember my first regional was for TCG, so I don't have to worry about like registration issues and stuff. But I don't know, it was like a magical time. I also had the pleasure of my very first regional I went to. It was in Madison, Wisconsin. So First off, Madison's always been a great regional location. They finally moved because the venue's too small, but it was fantastic. They also, the organizers were trying this thing called OHKO. So they actually did like a convention, not just a regional. So there was
like
voice
Ohana
actors.
Means family, like Stitch,
yeah,
like Lilo and Stitch. Okay,
yeah, OHKO. And then they had like voice actors and content creators. They had Real Breaking Nate there, and I think at this point he had just a couple thousand subscribers, and he was there as a featured content creator. And then like, he's put in the work, he's blow up now. But it was so funny because like, I remember seeing him at that event. They had a bunch of voice actors at that event. Veronica Taylor was actually there, as well as the voice of James was also there. I forget his name though. They actually did the, out of regional, how they do like a little talk before everybody plays. It was actually those two that actually sent it off in
awesome.
their Jesse and Ash voice of sitting down. So my first regional, and then there's Ash and James like talking us through and like setting us off for the first regional. Like that was the most amazing experience.
You're like, man, this must happen every time.
It does not happen every time. That was the first, and that was, I think, the first, but it was definitely the last time that they ever did anything like that. But like,
that's
that was
awesome.
A cool experience, though. I have to say, like, I gotta highlight as my very first regional. And even if they don't actually have conventions at every single regional, like the regionals are getting bigger and bigger. They're having more stands to sell things. Like it's more side events. Like it's still actually such a good time to go to.
And at least, I don't know about the other orgs, but at least with Overload, often they do like the artists signing cards or whatever, right? So that's a thing that they've consistently been doing. I think since like 2018 or something, I think Christine's doing that. So she does a great job with those. Like I remember a couple of the Dallas years I went and I got like a Jirachi Prism Star autographed and stuff. So I'm still actually waiting from Hartford on my full art Karen. Hopefully in Pittsburgh. I don't know. What I do when the Overload announces the artists, I just Google the artists, and then there's just like a full illustration of every Pokemon card they've ever made, and I just like look through all 600 cards that they've drawn, and I'm like, all right, this is the one. And so me and Jeremy were in line in Hartford, and I was like, oh man, the only one I see, because they had a whole section for the artist, right, in their slab. And the only one I was like, oh, this Karen it's a little expensive. And he old school haggled with the guy and got it a couple bucks cheaper. And so it saved me some money. So I was like, well, since you saved me money, I have to get it signed.
You have to now. He already went through the trouble of
exactly. So
getting
it's a cool card. And Karen's obviously popular with her very contentious quote about winning with your favorites, right? So I think it was a good investment.
That everyone who runs a bad Pokemon on their team lives by.
Yeah, exactly.
Me with my Slitherwing. I'm adding myself here, but
why are you using Landorus? You could just use Squawkabilly,
Yeah, it's
win
the
with
same
your favorites,
Pokemon.
Sierra.
There's the same Pokemon,
Flying types with Intimidate, win with your favorites. Like
yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, but the artist thing is cool. It's another thing that they have at regionals as well that I really enjoy. Like, I don't know. You also spent some money in Japan. I know it, but I spent a lot of money in Japan, and I know I mentioned going to Japan. What I was most looking forward to trying to buy was like Pokemon jewelry. I found the Pokemon jewelry at the Pokemon Center. It was all stuff that I had because one of the vendors that goes around to events actually imports stuff from Japan. And they actually do such a good job at it that they had all the jewelry pieces that were currently being offered in Japan, and I had bought all of the stuff that's in the current rotation. So I'm like, I roll up, I find the jewelry section. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited! And
I've got yen to spend.
I've got my credit card here. It is crying at me, and I am not listening. And I had all of the jewelry that like was actually cool because I actually bought it from that person. So
does that mean you saved money, or you already bought it prior at a regional? So it's not like you saved money because you already have spent that money. You get what I'm saying?
I'm just saying, when I'm casting, I'm spending my paychecks before I get them. I think I spent like $300 on Pokemon jewelry at I think it might have been Hartford. I just rolled up and I saw all the cool Pokemon stuff, and I was like, yoink.
Nice.
I also didn't save money in Japan because if I saw any Mew or Piplup plushies, I bought them. So I added like 6 new Mews to my collection and like 7 new Piplups to my collection. Keeping in mind,
are they the same plush that you already have, or is it a different plush?
All new ones. All new ones.
Okay, because that's my concern, is if you buy like the same Piplup 4 times. That's where I would be concerned.
Nope. I know every single one that I own. And I bought all different. We're walking through the Pokemon Center, and I see this like $60, like the equivalent to what would be $60 Canadian for me, Piplup plushie, and I'm just like, darn it, to like throw it in my basket. Like I did not see this turn around the corner. $60 Mew plushie that I don't have, and I'm just I'm crying, and I'm throwing more plushies in my thing, and I'm just trying to get out of the store, and I keep seeing these plushies that I don't have because if it's for a Mew or a Piplup, you can't quite see it in my, like, all the rest of them are still in my car. Those are the 2 that I collect. I have way too many of them. Like,
darn it, I have no choice. I have to purchase this.
I have to get it. My credit card is crying. My fridge is empty. Somebody please help me.
At least your heart is whole with your Piplup and Mew plushes. Your fridge might be empty, but your heart is not.
That's true. I just can't wait to roll up to a regional with all of them and have the Piplup Party 2.0. Twice as many.
That was such a good bit.
My favorite part of that bit. So, of course, on the viewer end of things, you just see the final product. So, obviously, that was April Fool's weekend. What had happened was I told our broadcast producer, and I'm like, because I was analyst for that weekend, I'm like, I'm going to do a thing, and I am not going to tell you what it is, so you can't say no.
Oh, okay.
She's like, oh gosh, okay.
Firm.
And I'm like, I don't think, because I was very certain I wasn't gonna get in trouble, but like it was also just funnier to me if I just rolled up. So I just rolled up with a bunch of Piplups, and then I bought every single Piplup that I saw out in that hall. So I brought all of my own into the venue, including my super, super big Piplup.
Yep.
The legend. And then I went and I bought like 4 more, and then I set them all up in the lounge, and we had a Piplup party. She unfortunately was out that weekend, but she got to see it on broadcast. She messages me. She's like, I love it. So it went over well, but I was just like, this is what we're doing. We're doing a Piplup party right here, right now. They're all my Piplups. Those are, I stocked up my Piplups. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean, I remember because I showed up late that weekend, not because I was late, but because Mother Nature didn't allow me to be there on time, right? Because of the
that was the event with all the
me Butters and Skarsgård showing up in round 6 on day 1 because that was the earliest flight we could get out of Chicago.
So anyone who didn't know, that weekend of Knoxville, there was huge storms rolling through. So flights were delayed, canceled. There's tornadoes. At one point, one of the hotels, like there was a tornado warning, and they had alarms and like stuff like in Knoxville, and it was crazy. It was crazy times.
Yeah, we did at least eat deep dish pizza in Chicago since we were forced to be there. Me, Butters, and Skarsgård, so we crossed that one off at least. But we showed up late. We showed up wet. And then I saw all of the Piplups there. And then I think, was that the first iteration? I think you had Aaron Trailer and James Evans. I think that was the first usage of the things for Guess That Pokemon, right?
Yeah. So that was Jeremy's idea. I always like to make sure that I give him the idea kudos because I was the first one to run the segment. So a lot of people were like, whoa, like Sierra thought of this. I'm like, no, Jeremy thought of it. Like, please, like, give the kudos to him. And also, it wasn't Knoxville, by the way. Sorry, it was Fort Wayne Regionals. Mm-hmm. I'm getting my regionals mixed up. All of this is Fort Wayne that we're talking about. But yeah, that's when we had them on for the first time. That's the first time we did Pictionary. We got to do that. That was super fun. It was super scuffed because it was before we got the on-ear mics, so we had to keep holding the microphone for each other, which was a good time. So that was such a chaotic weekend. I also looked absolutely dreadful on that day 1. So y'all showed up at round 6. My travel plans. So I ended up driving because obviously I have this big Piplup, right? We're just going into recapping our regional past stuff. We're chilling. We're down so many tangents right now. Like we're deep in the hole. This is like, I don't know, like that one movie where they keep going into dream worlds where you no longer know where you are. Like
Inception. That one movie, one of the greatest movies of all time. That one movie.
It was kind of mid, but so our travel plans going to Fort Wayne. Because I had to take the giant Piplup, I decided instead of flying that I was going to drive. I was very committed to this idea. It worked out perfectly because I was on analyst. I was like, I'm going to drive and bring down all of these plushies. So I planned it that if anybody needed, I was very like, if anybody, Detroit is on my path because I'm coming up from like Toronto. Detroit's in my path. If anybody needs to, go to Detroit Airport. If any of the casters are there, let me know. I'll pick you up and I'll drive you down with me. And then we hit all the weather issues. Yep. So all of a sudden, it ended up being that Joseph Agarte as well as Gabby, our lovely go-caster, both ended up at Detroit Airport. So I finished up a broadcast and then drove the few hours to the Detroit airport and picked them up. And then we drove a little bit, and the weather actually was brutal. And then
I
this
don't know
is
how
about
you were even attempting to drive in that. That was ridiculous.
Well, my dad was a semi-truck driver, and I used to like drive with them, and it'd be like all through the winter conditions. I'm just used to it. I'm a confident driver. Like, I'm scared of the other drivers, not me. I was good. But it ended up getting pretty bad, and we looked at the path ahead. We ended up being about, I think, 2 hours out at this point, and there was like tornado warnings in our path of a drive, which was going to be nowhere to stop if we decided to go for it. So the three of us decided, it was like 1 a.m. We're like, we're going to take a hotel right here. We'll sleep a couple of hours, and then we'll leave at like 4 a.m. after this passes. Then another one of the casters, Caleb, ends up having his flight like cancel. He was flying from Detroit to Fort Wayne. He napped.
This is the craziest story I've ever heard.
He wakes up and he's back in Detroit. They're like, we turned the flight around. And then he's like, see, are you still in Detroit? And I'm like, we're about an hour away right now. If you Uber to us, you can crash with us and we'll all drive down tomorrow. So in the midst of this storm,
it's so crazy that Caleb got on the plane expecting to be in Fort Wayne and took a nap and woke up in Detroit. That is
in Detroit. Yeah. So like, if you Uber to us, I'm like, I can't drive. It's like 1 a.m. It is dangerous out. Like, if somebody's crazy enough to Uber you here, though, I will drive you the rest of this 2 hours. So he actually finds an Uber at like, he had to go like, it ended up being forever to get him off this plane. He ends up taking an Uber at like 2:30 a.m. to meet us at this hotel in the middle of nowhere, where we're all just like crashed for like the 2 hours. And then we get up at 4:30 and everyone's just back in the car and we're driving our way to Fort Wayne. The best part is because I didn't plan on having a full car of people and I have this giant piplup. Gabby and Caleb are in the back seat. I drive a coupe, by the way. They're in the back seat with this giant piplup squished right between them. I have a picture and it's just like this piplup taking up the whole back seat and the both of them just like squished for the 2 hours to make it to Fort Wayne. It was great. And then because I, of course, didn't get there the Friday night, the hotel had canceled my room. So then the whole morning as I'm like, I need to get ready for, thank goodness we start like with round 3 for regionals for our day 1, because I was not going to make it if it was any other time. But it took like an hour to figure out the room situation. Finally get the room. I slept for 30 minutes, showered, and then went to broadcast.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah,
it was a time.
That whole weekend was like crazy. Like our main producer picked us up from Paper Light at the airport, like in a car, and just like picked us all and said, I need to get you there now, and got us to the hotel. And like we tried as fast as we could, and it took till round 6. And I remember I literally enter the building and like get backstage, and then it's like, oh, you're on, and like immediately go on. And I just turned to Gabby and I'm like, I got here 10 minutes ago. Has anyone hit a fissure yet? Because that was the first Regulation C tournament.
Oh, was that the fissure tournament?
Yeah, that was the Fiona Fissure tournament. That was in day 2 when that happened. But like,
yeah, well, that was the wolf rant.
My priorities literally were like, I was there for 10 minutes. I didn't want to know who was winning. I wanted to know if anyone hit a fissure yet. I think my priorities were correct.
And you showed up like in time to then see all the fissures land. So it was good job. The fissures waited for you. That's actually what happened.
Exactly.
I forgot what we were talking about before this.
About what? Just like our crazy regional stories that happened?
We're just talking about regional experiences, yeah. Regionals are fun, guy.
Yeah, I think hopefully next year it's all crazy, right? Because we don't know what's happening. Nobody knew when they booked Fort Wayne that there was going to be a massive storm through the Midwest, right? Obviously, they would have chose a different day, so you can't really predict it. But some of these like crazy stories, they help like bind us closer as casters, right? We go through this trauma, for lack of a better word, to get together, and now we have this fun story. Like on the outside of it, you can look back in fun and see Gabby and Caleb smushed by the piplup. and like we can look back on it and like and laugh as is good. But in the moment, like me and Butters and Scarzy, like we're all stressed. Like, do I just live in Chicago now? Am I just stuck here for forever?
Wasn't it
like,
too that it's like you guys weren't all originally traveling together? It's just you all coincidentally got stuck
none
together.
Of us were. We all got stuck together. I think Butters and I were going to be on the same Chicago flight to Peoria, which is just like the little half-hour hopper or whatever. But yeah, like we just happened to all be stuck in Chicago together, and I feel so bad because there was a player who was coming from Canada, and it was his first ever VGC event, and it just got like there was literally no way. Like when we were gonna drive, he was just next to me and Butters, and we were talking about Pokemon. So he was like, "Oh, hey, I'm coming. It's my first event." But he was a nice kid. And then when the flights got canceled, and we're like, "All right, we got to book a car." Like we're talking to our producers and stuff. And I was like, "You want to come with?" Like I didn't even know him, and he was like, "Yeah, sure." So he was with us for the next hour, and of course, all the price gouging. You go to Enterprise, and you go to all these other. And it's like, "Oh, you want to rent a $90 car? That'll be $800 a night." Like, and it's like, okay, never mind. I guess we're just gonna show up late. Because I'm not I'm not renting this car for $800 a night. So that kid unfortunately had to go back to Canada. He wasn't able to get a flight. So I feel so terrible that, he was trying to get his first ever experience in it. And Mother Nature said no. So
that's always the scary thing with flights, because there's always the heartbreak with a couple of flights, because you never actually know. And then there'll be people like travel plans. I always stress when somebody's flight gets delayed, something gets rerouted. And then a friend of mine too actually missed playing NAIC for his world invite because the flight screwed him over. And it's always just like, I mean, it's an unfortunate side effect with the traveling. Like people work, people have lives, people can't be, flying out the Thursday night or super early Friday to have this alternative plans if something goes wrong. But just hearing about this kid trying to go to their first VGC event, and then Mother Nature is just like, nah, get a real hobby. This one ain't for you, and not letting him go is like,
pick up knitting or
chess,
or play chess. Yeah.
Oh man, but I don't know. I'm hoping that would be the worst of our woes going on the rest of the season after Sacramento, is going to be just like traveling stuff and not actually this registration issue anymore. So,
well, Sierra, one place I'm excited to travel to, and it's not a regional. It's an international championship, baby, because we're going to Nolans in June.
How do you say that again?
They like local Nolans is what they say. Nolans. Like if you're from New Orleans, you don't say New Orleans. You say Nolans. It's gonna be a time.
Didn't we talk about this last week? Was this last week?
No, it was this week.
It was this week?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty
sure it was this week.
Things are happening so fast in the VGC world.
I'm
not
gonna
lie.
It was this week. Right? Because didn't we like message each other earlier this week? Like, man, we can talk about the ICs.
I thought we talked about the ICs. I thought we talked about it.
New Orleans?
My brain is fried from League of Legends. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna look.
I thought we did.
No.
And no OCIC?
No.
What?
No, October 25th. Thanks for Pokemon for dropping news, for us to talk about this week.
Wow, I am dumb.
Right? What was the 25th? 25th was Friday.
I did say that. I did send that. All right, well, exciting news, friends. Exciting news. We got news about our internationals for next season that we didn't actually talk about last week because Sierra doesn't know her days of the week.
Well, yeah, it actually would have been impressive if we talked about it last week because it didn't happen yet. So
I think it would get us both fired. No, we didn't get that information.
We didn't even know.
I wish.
I was so amped for New Orleans. Like literally, Sierra, I have just given to the fact that New Orleans is not a Pokemon city. It's like it's a big party city. A lot of adults go there and all these things. And Pokemon's family friendly, and also Worlds is in the summer and hurricane season's in the summer, and obviously New Orleans has difficulties with hurricane season and whatnot. So I was just resigned to the fact that this city I've wanted to go to forever, like my parents honeymooned in New Orleans. Like that, it's like that's how much like New Orleans has been exciting to me, right? Like
Yeah.
I just gave up. It was never gonna happen. So the fact that we have an IC in New Orleans, like I am just beyond ecstatic.
I think I remember last week, I think I said that I didn't see it moving outside of Columbus, Ohio for quite a few years, and then was instantly proved wrong. I actually
Oof.
didn't even notice that it was in New Orleans at first, because with the international news was also the news that OCIC is gone. And that was the one that a lot of people fixated on. I actually heard a rumor about it a bit ago, but I wasn't really, you know how rumors are, right?
Yeah.
So considering that it was like kind of spread around a couple of players, I was like I don't know, because OCIC has been around for a while, and then it actually happened, and it was like, oh, it is gone. Like it is gone. So I wasn't like necessarily the most surprised because it was already kind of planted that like, hey, this might happen, but it's still just like, oh, they actually pulled the plug. So I know that there was a lot of people upset, especially like Australians, because that was their international, because they already have so few events. So like something getting pulled, like that's actually it's actually pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is very heartbreaking for the Australian players. Like I understand their plight. Um I wonder, like I didn't know any rumors, no one tells me anything, so like I was very shocked when we found this out, because you're just expecting like, okay, November LASE, February OCSE, April EUSE, like we just have a system in place after all
Yeah.
these years, right? And I just wonder what the numbers are and like the return on investment for how difficult it is to fly out there, right? For how many people they have to get out there, for how long it takes, and how expensive it is to get out there. Like I don't remember what my flight was. I remember looking at it when we were working on it, and it was like crazy expensive. So and like the return on investment on how many people go out there and fly, especially now that there's no day two race next season,
Yeah.
so you're going to lose. Like VG's whatever. I think the VG people still go to everything because we're addicted and we have we have nothing better to do. I think you're going to lose a lot of TCG players at some of those ICs that have less of a player base, because there's no day two race for them anymore. Excuse me. So I understand the practical reasons why they took it away, but I still think it's definitely heartbreaking for the Australian players.
Yeah, well, I'm curious too, because that we obviously talked about. This one I'm sure that we talked about last week was them increasing the pricing.
Yeah.
So internationals was one that actually got a pretty significant pricing buff. So I do think that as long as they do increase pricing and stuff, even without a day two race, I think it's actually more enticing for people to go, because it's not only going to be this top percentage of player that can actually like has a reason, but it actually kind of extends down. Australia and like OCIC, I think was actually an event that was pretty heavily capped. So last season we had 282 masters. I think we just missed out on it. I can't quite remember.
I might as well
Because I think it
Sacramento.
was yeah, exactly. I think it was capped at 300 and then a couple people didn't show up. So the numbers haven't necessarily been great. I do think part of it is because of capping. I think too, because obviously if it's going to make invites harder to get, because like for the Americans that are heading over here, we have like 12 regionals we can go to. Like it's a lot easier to get to a lot of stuff. For the Australians out there, coming over to NA for a regional is a little bit difficult. But I'm hopeful, because sometimes they do announce regionals late. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that with OCICB gone, they add a regional or two as well. Like MSSs are back, PCs are back. Like there is quite a few ways. So as long as there is enough events held, I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, that our Australian player base does actually have the means to get the points without actually having to travel far. Because you can actually get quite a lot of points with the MSSs and PCs if you're like stacking up. I think you can get like half your invite if you do your best finish limits.
Yeah.
And top four, and just you don't even have to get second, you don't have to win. I think you still get like half your invite if you can get top four in all of your finishes.
Well, it's tough with Australia too because of how the country's laid out, right? Like going to a Sydney regional and going to a Perth regional aren't like, let's hop in a car and head to and head to Perth, right? You take a flight, it's expensive. Like, I think that's where the lack of IC, it is going to be made up by MSSs and PCs, and those are going to be super crucial for those Australian players, because I always feel bad for them, like Japanese players and stuff too, like when Worlds was in America every year, because like the end of June, you have to fly from Australia to Columbus, which is probably like a 21 hour adventure, something like that, and then do it on the way back, and then 6 weeks later you have to fly to California or Boston or DC or whatever again for another $2,500. So you're spending $5,000 on flights in a 6 week span. You know, I've always felt bad for them. So like, I don't know, maybe this, I don't want to say like, you don't have to come to NAIC if you don't want to, but like maybe save yourself $3,000 now that there isn't the IC and there isn't day twos, and just like, you know, enjoy yourself more.
If they need the points for the invite, though, because like,
but are you going to spend $3,000 on 20 championship points? Like,
if they need to, because that's also then a World's invite that they can't get. Like, because hopefully, VGC, I don't think any side events beyond what's happening at Pittsburgh happen until like October. So we don't actually really have an idea.
Well, there's something
of like
on the
how
Sunday,
much it's gonna be.
Isn't there? Didn't they tweet out that there's a PC on the Sunday?
Except for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has
gotcha.
the side events, but beyond that, TCG's been running stuff. VGC is not until October, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
So we don't actually really have a scope of how the MSS PC landscape is going to be looking. Not even for NA, let alone Australia. So like there is a world as well where they actually just don't get the amount of PCs and MSSs that they have, that we could actually see players that do need to be traveling out and actually making that trip.
Or that would stink, I would say.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that there will get enough events that they don't have to really look at that. But I mean, there is the special, people do it for special events, end of season. People will put, like, even in NA, people are going to NASE looking for those last 20 points for their invites. Like, it's inevitable. It's always going to happen.
Yeah, that's at least more practical to get from, you know, I don't know. Iowa to Columbus is more practical than from Sydney to Columbus or New Orleans this year. But I want to throw my theory by you, Sierra, with New Orleans. One, super stoked. No matter what happens, if I'm casting, if I'm a contender, if I'm playing whatever, just going as a spectator, I'm going to New Orleans. It's gonna be sick. My theory is that New Orleans is NASC is June 7th. And remember, we said, oh, it's weird that Los Angeles is May 24th. There's no June regionals this year. It's like, oh, maybe they're moving NAIC up and then they're moving Worlds up to deal with the hurricanes and stuff. And when I Googled it, New Orleans hurricane season starts at the end of June, early July. So the fact that they put NAIC in June, the beginning of June, instead of the end of June and beginning of July, is there a world that we get a July Worlds in Hawaii instead of August? Because if we're going to go from June 7th to like August 14th or something like that between NAIC and Worlds, that's like a 2 full month break. Like, I feel like there could be a July Worlds.
Wasn't last year's NAIC notoriously late though? Because I thought that looking more so early June for NAIC.
For years we had July 4th it was US National Championship for a very long time. Was on July 4th.
So not necessarily too late, but 2019 NAIC was the 21st to 23rd of June. So not quite as early June as I thought it was, but not quite year, like the 4th of July.
So this last one was supposed to be, that was the first week that was announced, and then they had the other gaming convention the same weekend at Columbus, so they moved it to the next week, which was the end of June, early July. So regardless, the US Nats or NASC has always been June 22nd, that's still second half of June. That's still a late June. But most of them have been July 4th, endish of June, early July. That's a very different time than June 7th.
I'm like trying to, when you see like a date and you're like, you don't actually know what number corresponds with the month and you're trying to do it in the head. I'm trying to do that right now. I think going back to it, 2018 was, I think, July 6th and 8th. So I think you are more so correct. I don't know why in my memory it was serving as like earlier June for me.
Because usually early June is the Madison-Milwaukee regional. Like,
that
for the last like 6 years, it was Madison or Milwaukee in every beginning of June. So
it would be curious if that's why. The one thing I'm hoping for, if they're having NAIC be sooner, because NAIC this Sunday was the cutoff for when locals also ended. So that was like the cutoff of you can no longer get points. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did move Worlds up for hurricane season. I would not be surprised by a July Worlds. I'm also curious, though, if they're going to then have events after NAIC for the rest of the month of June. That could be those last opportunities to get points. Not like quite a last chance qualifier event, but maybe like kind of go ham with the MSSs or like kind of something
or like,
to like.
You mean like an unannounced regional, like how Fresno was announced later?
I don't think we'd have a regional after NAIC. I think maybe they could kind of bombard that last little slot, and then have events going until the end of June, and then like, I don't know the qualification. But I guess if it's a July Worlds, then that doesn't necessarily make sense.
I don't know. I just think it'd be kind of weird if we finish, let's say, June 10th. I don't know if that's a Sunday or a Monday or whatever it is. And then we have to wait 2 full months with no PCs, no MSSs, no regionals. And then we have Worlds. And it like kind of kills the buzz. You know what I mean? Like of the build-up that we have through NAIC. And then you're like, man, Worlds is right around the corner. Like, this is the capstone. And now we have to wait 2 months.
Are we going to move up our 2025 season then, though, if we do have a July Worlds?
I don't know.
Because, like, our regionals start in September. Are we then going to be like, okay, we won't have regionals for August, but, like,
maybe
we'll
just
have
locals?
MSSs?
Yeah.
Because, like, TCG has been, like, since Worlds having events. I think
there's people that have half their invite already.
Yeah. I knew I wasn't crazy. I was like, I'm pretty sure that I saw someone actually had half of their invite from TCG locals already. So, I mean, as long as they actually do something, because it's like, I definitely understand, like, if we don't have anything for majority of June and nothing for July, and then it's August Worlds, like, that'd be so weird. But it would also be weird to just have a completely off August, too.
I think the solution would be put some PCs and MSSs in August or something like that, you know, the way that TCG is able to earn championship points in August. Because right now, you know, or even ever, VGC players have never been able to besides the Open at Worlds every year, right? So I don't know. I just wanted to dump my theory in the conversation of what you think, because I think that'd be pretty cool if Worlds is in July.
So next theory, not actually quite theory, but like, obviously we're going to Nolans, sorry, but we have had NAIC in Columbus for quite a bit now. It was Indianapolis before. They kind of went back and forth, but like, it has been Columbus for a while. I'm kind of curious as to why the switch, because I was very certain that we were going to be in Ohio for quite a while longer. Like, as much as it is difficult for international people, it was quite easy for NA people. The convention center was huge. Like, there's a lot kind of going on. I think last year that NAIC was not announced in any timely matter last year. I think that there was some really heavy scheduling issues. So I'm actually curious if this is not more so a wanted change, but like they could not get whatever time they wanted. And if we are moving Worlds up because of hurricane season, they couldn't have it late June because we got pushed back, I think, because of scheduling issues. So it might even be like we were kind of forced out of Ohio, and that's why we're then now finding ourselves in a location.
I think it's an interesting theory that, like, in this which came first, chicken or the egg scenario, where I'm like, oh, New Orleans is early, so they're gonna bump Worlds forward, and then you're like, no, Worlds is early, so they're gonna bump NAIC forward. I like this chicken or the egg scenario, and I think one, it could have just been a contract thing, right? We could have had X amount of years with Columbus, the Greater Columbus Convention Center, as I like to call it, is this giant sign backstage. on there, and that could have been extended because of COVID. So maybe we were only supposed to have one more in after, COVID, but then we had all those years off with no events. So that's why I was extended into 2023, and they were intentionally looking for a new place. The scheduling definitely logically makes sense. But the one thing I like, that I don't know how this event's going to go down. I'm going to have a great time. We're all going to have fun. We're all going to have a fun time. But I like that Pokemon, I don't know which branch, we'll say TPCI or organized play or whichever group that is making these location decisions. I like that they're taking risks, because New Orleans is not the first place that people would think, but who knows? This could be somebody's favorite IC that they ever go to, like, depending on what happens. Like, I like that we're at a point in our game size, especially because of TCG, but VGC also expanding rapidly, that excuse me, I apologize for the cough. That the powers that be are willing to take risks because they know we have the player base to support these decisions. So it could be New Orleans this year, and then it could be New York as NAIC the next year, or it could be Seattle as NAIC or something like that. And maybe EUIC gets changed from the Excel Center, like if they run it in London for 5 years straight, and then they put it in France or something like that. Like, I like the idea that they're willing to take these risks instead of just playing it easy. Like, we'll go to Columbus for the rest of history until I die. Like, because they know that the player base is there to support these changes.
I feel like, too, when we're looking at changes, because, like, I am excited about trying out New Orleans, but, like, I feel like I was one of the few people that actually liked having an event in Columbus. I'm also a little bit biased because it is a long drive, but it is drivable. But because it is then drivable, it does mean it's also a very easy flight for me. So there is a little bit of bias, but, like, for myself, because people are like, oh, it's Ohio, oh, it's Columbus, and they immediately say NAIC is bad from that. But I actually think, like, beyond the location, like, there's different things that kind of make the event good. So sure, it's Ohio, but, like, where we had the convention center, there was a lot of food options nearby. There was a lot of hotels for walking, and the convention center was big, and there was food options at the convention center.
That esports bar was lit in Columbus.
Yeah, the esports bar was awesome. There's, like, a bunch of escape rooms. Like, it ended up, and everything was really close by. So for me, even if Columbus wasn't close enough that it was convenient for me, it's always been a good event for me, because, like, those are, like, that's what I do. After the event, I go out for food with friends, or going out to an escape room, and everything was nearby. I could walk to the convention center. That's what I care about, right? So it's like the other events where we had to, like, where you have to take, like, a long Uber from, like, your hotel or to the venue, or, like, there's no food around, you're Ubering everywhere, there's nothing to do. I'm thinking specifically of, there was no VGC Regional at this event, but the Texas event last season. Arlington, yeah. I casted TCG for that, and, like, there was nothing around. Like, there was nothing, right? So, or even what was it this year? I don't know. There was also an event that was in, like, the middle of nowhere this year that was also super annoying. I can't quite remember.
It all blends together.
It does.
At this point,
all blend together.
I mean, technically,
Hartford?
Hartford had a Chili's. Hold on a second. That Chili's was lit.
Oh, my bad. I forgot that. Like, if it has a was that why we all hated Columbus? Because there wasn't a Chili's within a 30-second walk at the convention center? Like, am I missing something?
Chili's is a deep cut. We can save the Chili's conversation for another another podcast. But yeah, right. Hartford was the one that was, especially because of the hotel we were at. We were not in the actual heart, for lack of a better word, no pun intended, of Hartford. Like, we were on the outskirts in a 10-minute Uber ride away. So yeah, that one was really frustrating, that there was not a lot of good food.
No food
you had to, like,
nearby
order
either.
McDonald's. You had to Uber Eats McDonald's every night.
All the food sucked, and it was so far away.
Not all, Sierra.
Sorry, I forgot about the Chili's.
Thank you.
I'm just saying, after Fort Wayne, I went to Chili's with the group, and I was so hungry that it was like, everything sounds good. I got, like, this weird quesadilla burger.
Yeah.
3 bites in, when I'm no longer starving, I realized absolutely just how greasy and dog it was, and promptly wanted to throw up, but I had to keep eating it. And I'm pretty sure I ate 4 days worth of calories in that one burger. It was greasy all over. It's so bad. Why do you like this place?
You felt God in that Chili's that night, Sierra. That's what it was. It was
I was
amazing.
gonna meet God. Like, I was perishing.
No,
It was not a good time.
you didn't ask me. You didn't ask me what to get. I would have helped you. I wouldn't have said the quesadilla burger nonsense. You ever see the commercials? You ever seen a Chili's commercial?
No, I don't have TV. I'm also not American.
Oh my god, they're known for their
Or I don't
baby
have
back
cable.
ribs. Please, for anybody that
okay.
doesn't, anyone who doesn't remember the 2000s, they have a very famous song about their baby back ribs. So you should look it up.
Okay, so next time I go to Chili's, I will get that. I don't know how much I trust your food recommendations, though, after Fresno,
don't you dare.
Where we got the morning Taco Bell, and I was sick.
Dude, that first of all, it's not, the morning Taco Bell was not the issue. It was consuming Taco Bell 3 times in like 26 hours was the issue, okay?
It was the midnight Taco Bell followed by the... Your next day?
Yeah, your nighttime Taco Bell, provided by Paperlight, which we appreciate. We're all hanging out. The nighttime Taco Bell is what cost you for your AM Taco Bell. I will not have you slander the good name of AM Taco Bell. I felt fine
until the AM Taco Bell, and then I'm backstage trying not to throw up. Rose is... I've never eaten a Tums in my life before Fresno, by the way. I've never had a Tums before. And Rose is like, trying to bring me Tums, and I'm like, I've never had a Tums. And I'm like eating Tums and bread. I'm just built different.
I ate Taco Bell 3 times in a day and a half, and I was perfectly fine. I'm just built different. Sorry.
I was dying. The Tums and bread, though, godlike combination. I did feel a lot better after that, and I did not throw up the morning Taco Bell. So it was, we won there. So that made for a bad regional experience.
You're just not built different. That's all it is.
Don't get the morning Taco Bell. If you are going to a regional anytime soon, do not get the morning Taco Bell.
What other options did we have in Fresno, California?
Starve, frankly. Like, use a better option.
It was delicious.
Oh goodness. All right. We're so, what else do we want to talk about in this week? I feel like there's it's a weird stretch week. We're going to have a couple of these sometimes because there's still lots to talk about, but also like next weekend is going to be the episode. There's actually a Victory Road tournament happening this weekend. So anyone who wants to get their practice in, check out Victory Road VGC on Twitter. There is going to be a tournament. I have to figure out what I'm going to play for that. I'm going to participate, but I actually feel like that will be really fun. I'm going to, yeah.
We should like team build together. What? I'm a great team builder. I'm Moon Room undefeated. What do you mean? Like,
I am actually horrendously bad at team building. So
okay, we balance each other out.
Yeah, I still need to learn that. I think I'm pretty good at picking up teams. I mean, the team that I picked up for San Diego, I literally played 1 game of it the morning before the event. I'd seen the team for 10 minutes, and I was like, all right. My team, instead of looking over my opponent's team sheet, I was looking over my own team sheet to see what I had on my team. And I won my first 4 matches, my first 4 best of 3s. So I was just like, but I can't team build to save my life.
Listen, I'm not flaunting or anything like that. I truly believe my best skill as a Pokemon VGC trainer is as a team builder. Over the last 10 years of my life, I have consistently been much better at building teams that friends use effectively and, have good team synergy than I have been at playing and performing with teams. So, you could call me a lot of things. You could call me a Taco Bell,
Taco Bell enjoyer. An AM Taco Bell enjoyer.
Yeah, you can call me many things in life, but don't discredit my team building abilities, because that's my one thing I'm actually good at in this game.
I'll take your word for it. See, I just don't really know too much still about Regulation D. There's this Victory World Tour that's happening, which anyone should be joining in. Even if you're not playing in Pittsburgh, it's good practice. But there's also Victory Road World Cup happening. So I'm doing tryouts for Team Canada.
And I was going to ask if you're playing or not.
Yeah, so we'll see if I make the team. I made it the first year I tried out, but like with casting, it's like you're keeping up on the meta. Like, you'll understand this. You're keeping up with the meta and all of this stuff, but it's very different skills than actually playing. So I was focusing more on like the casting as well as like I was still doing content creation full time. And that's when I started doing like my other casting career and that started taking off. So I stopped actively playing as much. So I didn't try out for the team the next year, but I actually I want to try this year. I really wish that I actually paid a bit more attention to Regulation D before now, but I have my first tryout game tomorrow. So they kind of split us all into little groups and we all play up against each other. So I stole a rain team.
Is this a tryout in the sense of the winner moves on? Because that's not necessarily how tryouts work in traditional sports, right? It's not like the point guard gets past the defender and scored, therefore he gets to stay on the team. Like you can lose a game but still show you have skills and abilities and make it through a tryout. So how does this work?
So each team actually does tryouts however they want. So I think for like Team USA, it's a like, considering that the US player base is a lot bigger and like they have a lot more like names that are consistently doing an event, I think that's one that's much more like they just reach out to who they want and pull on. I could be wrong, but I know that they do like kind of more pull players on. For us, like it's for Team Canada, we do like this tryouts and then all split up. And so like they kind of simulate a little team environment for each one of us. So it's not necessarily the result we get from the week, but how well we perform in that team environment. So even if we lose, but they saw that we're actively helping our teammates with our prep, or like they saw that we're actively practicing. Because like everybody loses a game sometimes. Even the best players lose a game. Like they're not going to kick us for losing a game. But if they saw that we were actually like would be an asset to the team, then that's kind of more so what they're going to base off of. So I can blow chunks at every single one of my games, but if I was like actively participating in a way that they thought would be useful, because they only field a certain amount of players per week anyways.
Yeah.
So like you could, I think when I played on Team Canada, I think I was only fielded once. Like so it didn't really like, there's players that normally get fielded consistently and then just kind of, if someone's having a really rough time or you're actually really, really doing good, you might get slotted in. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. So
I'm hoping I get picked up by Team Ireland.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I'm Irish.
Have you contacted
heritage.
them?
No, hoping they reach out to me.
No contact. What do you mean?
When they reach out, dear Zebedad, we would like to offer you to be officially Irish and be on Team Ireland. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I know I'm not good enough to be on Team USA.
Well, then reach out to the team. They don't have to reach out to you.
There's real Irish people that are applying. You know what I mean?
But if you're good enough, especially too, because they don't always field every single player all the time. You're talking about your greatest asset being your VGC team building. That is actually a very big asset you can provide to the team.
I'm pulling up Twitter right now. What was this? Victory Road. All right, let me see something for the World Cup. We're gonna live commentary my they're talking about Sacramento. I can't do this.
I don't know if they'll actually.
Can I even play if I'm not like an Irish citizen? Just of Irish descent.
I'm not sure exactly. So like there is certain things. So like even if you live in like the US, but like your certain nationality, I don't know how far that goes. So if you're just like I'm Irish descent and it's like way back. I think it would have to be pretty recent. Yeah,
it's not recent. It's like 100 years or something.
Right. I mean, apply to Team USA with your team building.
Yeah, okay. I'll play along, Sierra. They're gonna accept me.
I don't know.
There's like 8 million people that apply for Team USA.
How many of them are using other people's teams?
But that's not my fault that they win with some other team and then like, oh, this player's good, therefore they have to be on the team. No,
but what I'm saying is if you're contributing to like the scouting and the team building and all of this other stuff.
I literally couldn't even get, what's the other one? The NPA. Like all those years, are you familiar with the NPA tournaments or whatever? I applied for that every single year. Like, I don't know, from like 2016 onwards. And I never even got like a second look. And that's not even country based. That's just random teams where they draft players.
The issue though with the NPA, because like the thing is when you're looking at managers for a country based thing, they pick people of the country. NPA, it can also be people scouting people or like picking up people they know or people that they're friends with. Like since it's not like, oh, we need to pick up US people, like it's then like different. So like if they're like, oh, we were running this team last time, we like this team, they could still go back, you know? It's also like the draft leagues and stuff nowadays, there's so many people trying to get into them. Like there is actually a lot of really good names that get left out.
I wanted everyone to hear my clicking and clacking of my keyboard.
As you try to apply.
I just see, because I see my boy Pedons is a team manager of Ireland, and we go way back. So that was me DMing Pedons and saying, hey, can I join Team Ireland for funsies? Send. Let's see what he says. We'll have an update in the next episode.
Next episode.
Yeah, you're gonna that's how we regain. We retain our audience, Sierra. They're gonna have. Oh, I need to know. Does Joe get added next week? I have to watch the next episode of OHKO.
I like how I have like 5 weeks, like the shortened weeks of tryouts to get on this team. And you're just like message Pete on. You're like, yo, let me join your team, bro. It would be really fun, bro.
It would be pretty fun, I think.
It would be fun. Yeah, so if anybody's trying to join, if you check out Victory Road, they do have the applications. Obviously, some teams are going to be a little bit more difficult, but hey, it'd be fun. Like I know we're doing our tryouts and stuff for Team Canada now. We'll see if I actually make it on. I think everything closes up. I think the final rosters have to be submitted by the 18th, so I won't have an episode next week if I made the team or not. But after Pittsburgh, hopefully. I will have an update if I won my first 2 matches though next week.
There we go.
So
does Team Canada? Because I know the teams in World Cup. I remember I've casted a couple of like grassroots events for it over the year. I think it's a great event. Like I remember like there was one year like I think like Team Egypt made it super far, or Team India made it really far. So like I think it's really cool when you see the different regions and how they play. It's not just America versus Japan in the finals every time. You know what I mean? Like there are other great nations in the VGC world. So I think it's a great event that we should promote. But I know the logos often they have like a Pokémon associated with like the country logo. Like does Team Canada have that, or is it just like the red and white? Like
for Team Canada, we have I forget the name of it.
Is it Stantler? Is that the most moose related?
The Pikamuku? The spiky thing with the hand, but the hand is actually the Canadian maple leaf.
Pikamuku's from Hawaii, though. Why is that the Canadian logo? Shouldn't it be a Stantler?
I think I'm thinking of the right Pokemon.
Yeah, I know Pikamuku with the hand. Yeah.
Well, because it shows the hand, but then the hand is a maple leaf.
You're known for your moves. You don't know for Pikamuku.
Well, it's the maple leaf. We got a little maple leaf. You know. I don't know what to tell you here. I
don't know. I'll just say maybe you go Trevenant because he's like a tree. He's got leaves. He could have been your maple leaf.
Could have been our maple leaf. No, that's no fun. Fun fact though, because you're saying like, oh, it's not only U.S. versus Japan in the finals. Last season, the 2022 season, it was actually Canada in the finals.
There you go. See, that's what I'm saying. It's a really cool story that like is able to, get like how often would a player from I don't know Brazil get the chance to team build and prepare and have very important best of threes against team players from Sweden? You know what I mean? Like it's a really cool interaction that we have.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that if you're just looking at the regional circuit, but actually are not really paying attention to like these grassroots events and the stuff that's being held online, like you're definitely missing out. Because I think it's pretty safe to say that when we're looking at leagues like these grassroots, I would even almost consider Victory Road World Cup to be grassroots. It feels weird to call it grassroots.
It's borderline official, yeah. Yeah,
it's actually like a pretty big. So looking into this sort of stuff, like following the matches once this go on, it's pretty good. And for anyone who wants to be improving in VGC too, like I cannot explain how invaluable it is, like being part of like the team environment. Because I see all the time, people are like, I don't have people to team build with. I don't have people to run matches with. Like that's the whole spirit of these teams. Even if you are looking at more like grassroots, things like this, that have the teams that are drafted, like being able to be included in this team, like these types of teams, is actually incredible for improving. So that's definitely something I'd recommend if you're like, I can't go to regionals, but I want to compete, to try and keep an eye out on things like that.
Wait, isn't oh my god, isn't Abdullah Canadian?
Yeah.
Oh, you got some tough competition there. You playing him in tryouts?
No, we're actually on the same team. Who do you think I took a rain team from?
Let's go. Let's go. I was worried for you for a second. It was like, oh, she gotta go against Abdullah. Like, would have been rough.
I believe. Also, he just plays rain. I would just bring not rain, I just bring whatever brings rain. Because like that's another thing that's actually pretty important is like scouting in these things. Like people actually scout and like counter team and stuff. So I would just bring, I don't know, sun or something else, better rain. But no, it's cool. So I like the group that I got put with. So it'll be fun. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I get nervous playing.
No, you got this. I
get nervous playing in front of people, and then people have to go through my replays and stuff. But it should be good. I don't know.
You got this. Now, the other question I have before we wrap up, because I don't remember, is if we have a question of the day or not. Because I saw some YouTube comments. There were people that asked questions. I just don't remember if we wrote it down or not. So shout outs to you YouTube commenters, including myself, because I made a comment.
You're not allowed to shout out yourself. You're not allowed to shout out yourself. Okay, no.
Shout outs to our commenters.
No faith that I would have a tab pulled up on my computer that would have our question of the day.
It's not no faith. I didn't know if we had one or not.
I have one. So we actually got a couple of questions of the day. So exciting stuff. So I ended up picking this one from Backpacker William. Considering we haven't answered a question from them yet. When this is, for our question of the day, what's your guess on a future possible Legends first partner trio with new evolution implications? This one's really fun. We spent already a lot of time this episode like theorizing Pokemon and stuff, and we just get to do it all over again, so.
Okay, all right. Okay. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So, logically, with Legends Arceus, and a lot of people say like Legends Johto would be next, and you do like a Celebi story or something like that.
Why Johto next?
It's a very popular opinion that Johto would be next, because Celebi's another legendary that like you could build a whole story around more than other legendaries.
Mew is one of those. Whatever.
Oh, you want to go back to Kanto? Okay.
Jirachi is one of those. We have a mythical in every generation. I'm just like
Celebi would be Celebi would be a way better story than Jirachi would be, personally. That's just me. So anyway,
I'm not yourself.
Let's just, for argument's sake, to answer the question of the day,
we'll say Johto.
We'll say it's Legends Johto, and it's a whole Celebi thing. So what we had with the starters was Gen 2 with Timeflosion, Gen 7 or Gen 5 with Samurai, and Gen 7 with Rowlet. So if we keep that system, it would Gen 2, 5, and 7 is what I would say would be our other regional form, Johtonian forms or whatever. Because it would make sense if they're going to continue making this series of games to give all of those starters alternate forms. Like, why does Decidueye get one, but Primarina and Incineroar don't?
Because they're being silly goofy. If they never make a Legends Arceus again, why do we all of a sudden have 3 starters that have alternate
because they're going to make
forms?
more. I think they like money.
They're being a little silly goofy. See, I don't know. Money. Considering it's just like 2, 5, 7, I don't think that we're really following a rhyme or reason. I think that just like they picked 3 starters that are like, yo, these ones are pretty cool looking, and just like went for it. So I won't base my criteria off of that. If I'm looking at Johto though, and what could be cool, I don't know.
I mean,
I think
the choices are for Alligator and what's his face? Not Bayleaf, the full Meganium, right?
That's I'm not picking one from Gen 2. I'm not picking one from Gen 2. You said
Johto.
I'm thinking of like Legends Johto, Legends Celebi. If we're in the Johto region, which 3 starters? I'm not going to pick one from Johto.
Yeah, Rowlet, my favorite Gen 4 Pokemon. Yep, go on.
I would say I'm like thinking. I'm putting some thought into this.
You think? Right? I will say for my trio will be Feraligatr, what's his face? Not Primarina, Incineroar, and Serperior. That'd be the Fire, Water, Grass of 2, 5, and 7. If you want to go even further, I think it'd be awesome if you make them all Dragon types and they all beat each other up super effectively. That would be my idea.
Why?
Just because every time we always have Fire, Water, Grass core, and it's always A beats B beats C beats A. I think it'd be cool if all 3 starters were Dragon types and they actually beat each other up.
I would say the only reason.
See, you're thinking about it now.
No. But thinking back to Johto, there was literally like the dragon arc. They had like that legendary dragon cave, whatever it is, where you have to go chase down Claire after you kick her butt, or like before you. I don't know. She's being snotty. She runs
she's being
into
a
this
baby.
cave. Yeah, and then you like in the dragon cave, and they literally made this big deal about this dragon cave. So that is the only reason that I would actually be okay if they're actually all dragon for their secondary types. I wouldn't be okay with it for any other region. If we had like Legends Kanto, no, not dragon types. But I will accept.
We had it here first, OHKO listeners. Sierra thought I had a good idea.
Yeah, don't get used to it. But all right, so. Well, now I kind of feel biased in like trying to pick types that would be cool with like dragon as like their secondaries, but
it's still fire, water, grass, right? That's what starters are. Excuse me, first partner Pokemon. Apologies.
First
That's what first partner Pokemon are: fire, water, grass. So,
see, I think my 3 that I would go with the water, fire, grass, Fennekin, Snivy, and Squirtle.
Squirtle? You're giving Squirtle a form and not Venusaur and Charizard?
They'll get one eventually.
Oh, okay.
We have multiple generations. We're gonna get to all of them. They're gonna have one later. I think it'd be too early in the whole grand scheme of things to give Charizard yet another type.
I don't know. I don't think they respect Charizard enough. I think he actually needs a little more love, you know?
No, he Charizard gets included on the 3rd one, Legends. I don't know, whatever. Legends Black and White.
Legends Mousalada diner in Sun and Moon.
Especially if we're going out to Aura. I don't know.
There's no rhyme or reason to the Legends. We even know they started with Gen 4. Like there's literally
that's exactly it. I'm just saying though, and I always get hate on for this. I hated the gameplay of Legends Arceus. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my type of game. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying for me, I thought it was boring and repetitive in a way that I didn't like. I like boring and repetitive in like the traditional Pokemon battling or Animal Crossing or like something like that. I didn't like it in Legends Arceus. However, Hoenn is such a beautiful region that I would be so excited. No matter how bad I thought the gameplay was for it, I would play all the way through a million times Legends Hoenn. I would be so excited for that just because the region is so beautiful. And then if they made it ugly, I would never forget Pokemon. But, it would just be so
Well, you were in the real life Hoenn. You were in Kyoto, right?
No, I didn't go.
Johto. You went to Johto. Sorry. That's Kyoto.
Yeah.
I don't know what Hoenn is based off of.
I also didn't go to Kyoto, so.
I thought you did. I thought you took a day trip and like almost died or something.
No, I didn't go because I was actively dying. But...
Recipes.
Or I was thinking of going. So at the beginning of the trip, we were thinking about it, but kind of wasn't feeling great. At the end, like I was like, we're gonna go, and then it was like, oh wait, no, like I am actually. And then Ugarte actually extended his trip till the Saturday, and I was like, I am going home. Like I left on the Tuesday. I did not extend. I think he was going, like, they were planning to go to Kyoto. They had plans to do a bunch of stuff, and it was all stuff I wanted to do. And I'm like, I am incredibly dying right now. Like,
I'm going back to Tim Hortons where I belong.
I just laid in my air conditioning house and I'm still not fixed. I'm just eating like just foods that I'm heating up. Like, yeah, I'm having a good time. But no. But Legends Hoenn, I think would just be like, could be cool. You could ride around on a Latios and Latias. Imagine how cool that would be.
We did that in
I know. But then imagine doing it on the Switch with how Legends looked. A better Legends.
I like how that's like you might as, do you work for Game Freak, Sarah? Because you're pitching like, what if we do this thing we've done before again? Wouldn't that be fun? Like, what if we catch all the legendaries on Latios and Latias? What if we catch all the legendaries through Ultra Wormholes? What if we catch all the legendaries through Max Day Raid Dens? Like, it's just like, you've done it already. Let's do it again.
On the Latias, riding like. No. The ride Pokemon was like one of the best things that they've added to the game and getting rid of HMs. So why can't we just why do we have to ride on lame Pokemon? Why can't we ride on cool ones? Why can't we go back to Latios and Latias and flying around the region? That was so, you're literally so high in the sky. There was absolutely nothing like that. You're like, let's push things we never did before. They did that one and done, and they never went back to it. And that was one of the best parts of the game. Oras was a 10 out of 11 out of 10 game.
I agree with you there. I think Oras is an incredible game, but I mean, poor Tauros catching strays there. It was like, why we gotta ride on lame Pokemon?
I was actually thinking of Go-Goat.
Oh,
or no, it wasn't. It Skidoo is what it's called. Whatever the one in Gen 6.
Same
and
line.
It's just really slow, really freaking
Skidoo
slow.
Catching strays.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Also in Sun and Moon, when the Machamp holds you, I did not like that either. I hate humanoid Pokemon, and all of a sudden this thing is holding you in his arms as he's running around. Why?
What if Machamp?
Who thought of that?
What if Machamp picked up AM Taco Bell for you and just settled it out?
That'd be my worst nightmare. I hate both of those things. Those are the two worst things.
You're missing out. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know. I'm saying I've experienced the AM Taco Bell, and I have seen the Machamp carrying my character around a game, and I was not content. So I ain't missing out. I already know what's up.
Hey, I mean, I think we're going off the rails a little bit here as it gets a little late.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, that's a good place to end it. Machamp is bad, and do not get AM Taco Bell. But if you made it to this point, first, why? Second, thank you. Considering that this was just going to be talking about regionals and stuff, we actually talked about a lot.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I think sometimes we gotta shut ourselves up, Sierra. We're too talkative. We're too conversational. It's a problem.
The last comment I will say, I think it's because of all the vamping we do have to do on the VGC broadcast. We had a 2-hour delay in our league broadcast today, and someone in chat was like, Sierra does this all the time for VGC. She's fine. We did send to a break, by the way, on the league broadcast. We did not have to vamp for 2 hours, but they literally knew me from the VGC broadcast and the fact that we have to vamp a lot. So wow. We're trained for this. We're professionals.
Vamping extraordinaire, Sierra Dawn.
Yeah, and I can say the things here that I can't on broadcast. Exactly. I don't like Machamp and humanoid Pokemon are creepy and weird, and I don't like them. So, we get to speak our truth when we have it. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining in. Hopefully we didn't scare you off for next week's episode, where we'll get to actually go through the Victory Road tournament results and start to really deep dive on the medal, looking ahead at Pittsburgh. If you haven't already, make sure to look to us on Twitter at OHKO Podcast, as well as Instagram and TikTok, to get little snippets of the episode, anything you might have missed or anything else that's going to be going on. Especially with the regional season, it'd be fun to show you kind of behind the scenes of a couple of things as we get to travel around to events and stuff. So thanks again, everyone, so much for tuning in. Good luck with your Pittsburgh prep, and we will see you soon.